Fact or fiction, runaway inflation?
Click on the banner above to learn more about our sponsor, Fairway Independent Mortgage.
The chaos and legal disputes in the wake of the presidential election have nearly eclipsed the earlier debate on additional coronavirus economic stimulus payments. As a society, these are uncertain times. Economically, we're facing the prospects of continued GDP growth, but a deep recession possibly. And most importantly, what is the true cost of the economic stimulus and trillions of dollars of debt incurred from the pandemic? First, the Federal Reserve has slashed rates to 0 to 1/4%, and then next came the PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program, that allocated approximately $349 billion of the $2.2 trillion Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or the CARES Act. While the sheer amount of money that's slashing around in the gas tank of the U.S. economy is frightening, the fiscal stimulus is actually a mere fraction of what other developed nations have paid when it represents the GDP. The U.S. actually only invested 13% of our stimulus as represented in our gross GDP, compared to 33% for Germany and 42% for Japan's gross domestic product. However, the sheer size of our GDP must be considered when compared to other developed countries. While economic stimulus measures stopped further damage to our economy in the early days of the pandemic, it certainly does come at a cost, and that cost is inflation, should there be too many dollars chasing American goods and services in the future. However, almost as if we're defying economic gravity, U.S. inflation remains below its 2% target. Certainly, there was a noticeable spike in food prices early this spring in the wake of supply chain interruptions, but beyond that, inflation as it's broadly defined appears to be somewhat disconnected from the extreme quantitative easing that we're seeing today from the Fed. The question is, how long will these economic antibodies last? Some say for the foreseeable future. Others point to the 30-year U.S. Treasury bond being particularly sensitive to inflation, showing expectations of rising food and energy costs. But alas, we do have signs of inflation right here and now of another variety. No other segment of the economy has been more inflated than housing values, that thanks to extremely low interest rates. However, as we've discussed repeatedly on this show, a backlog of postponed foreclosures and forbearance may act as a proverbial needle, popping the housing bubble. All which brings us back to now, mid-November 2020. Setting aside what appears to be an ugly general election, likely to be contested in the courts in the coming weeks or even months, what can we do to prepare for 2021 and beyond? What do you control? One, if you have not already done so, brush up on your CMT knowledge. Now, heckin' professionals who worked prior to 2009 are very familiar with the constant maturity treasury rate. Second, anticipate some short-term pricing volatility in the secondary markets until there have been tranches of heckin' mortgage-backed securities tied to the CMT actually sold. Of course, you're going to see some impact on your compensation in the meantime. Third, know that the Federal Reserve and other world banks across the globe plan to keep their interest rates to near zero until their economies gain a solid fiscal footing. That means, barring any structural changes to the HECM in the future, borrowers stand to net significantly more dollars from their home's value. However, the HECM's available principal limit, or line of credit as it's often called, is going to slow to a near crawl. And fourth, plan on selling from a distance using remote technology at least until mid-2021. That is, until a vaccine is available. Older homeowners are going to be understandably reluctant to meet face-to-face with you. Now, perhaps now is the time to invest in some professional lighting and an improved camera so you can increase the effectiveness of your sales presentations. What are your thoughts on this week's episode? You can leave those in the comment section below. And if you'd share this video with others, you can do so using the social media links on this page. And as always, if you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. That way you never miss an upcoming episode. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to return next week for more reverse mortgage news, commentary, and analysis here at the Industry Leader Update.